it's actually the next question is how to record audio in FL Studio. So to record audio in FL Studio, it's kind of hard. It's one of the least favorite things that I like here in FL Studio, because it's really hard to record audio in FL Studio. It's not the most smooth process, I guess, and it's really one of the things that it made me switch to different DAWs for mixing and recording. It's because of the workflow here in FL Studio for audio recording. I really don't like it. I think it doesn't help in terms of workflow. It's really messy sometimes, and that's why I went to other DAWs for mixing and recording. So I think the other DAWs like Studio One, for instance, I can show you here Studio One. DAWs like Studio One, where we have, let's create a new song just for things like this, and we can have a track here or four, and you just hit record here. I don't want volume here, but you see that you just hit record and you have the voice here. So if I now start recording, you see that my voice is recording. I stop and I have here a recording of my voice. This is really simple. You just add a track, hit record, and then you hit the record button. In FL Studio, it's not like that. In FL Studio, let's go to FL Studio. In FL Studio, you don't have that concept here of tracks, because here, if you open the playlist, we have 500 tracks here already set up. So there's no track concept here. It's kind of all over the place a little bit, and I think it's not the most easy process or easy workflow to work with. So let's try to record something here in FL Studio so that I can show you how to do. And so let's think. The first thing that you have to do is to arm a track for recording. And how can we do that? We don't have any track here that says recording, and that's kind of a little bit counterintuitive. So what we have to do, we have to start in the mixer. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to select a track that we want. We can select one of the, I think, 99 tracks, or no, 125 tracks that we have available, and we can select one of them. For instance, this one, and we have to go here to this menu, and we have click here, and then it will show us how many inputs we have. We can select both input 1 and input 2 for a stereo recording, but in this case, I have my microphone here that you can see. So this microphone is just one input and is in input 1. So if I go here and I click input 1, you will hear some feedback. And as you can see, so I have now, it's kind of hard to talk like that. So let me take the routing here, and if I reset this, you see that my voice also plays here. So the way you now record is you have to first set here the input of the track. And after you have this input, you have to go to the playlist. Let's make this a little bit shorter. And you have to be able to select here, or you have to select this knob here. And if I click here, it shows me this pop-up window. It says audio into Edison, audio editor / recorder, or audio into the playlist as an audio clip. So basically we have here two options to record audio. We can either record from this channel here directly into Edison, or we can record it into the playlist as an audio clip. I don't think I ever used this option, to be honest. I always use this one here, audio into the playlist as an audio clip. I don't know. It's just the one that makes more sense to me. So let's say that I want to record audio in the playlist. I click here and it automatically starts the playback. And starts the recording. So if I click here, it will start recording audio. And now if I start talking, you see it's kind of all over the place because it starts making a loop of the track. So already you can see that this is not very very smooth. It's kind of all over the place, because in Studio One, for instance, I click recording and it starts recording until I hit stop. In FL Studio, automatically made a loop, and I don't like this workflow. I don't like to set up first. Okay, now I need to first set up the length of the thing that I want to record, and then hit record. So let's do that. As you can see, now that I record, my voice shows up, but it will loop at the end of the loop. So whenever it reaches here 16, it will start again and it will create a new entry here. I kind of see the point of this if you want to record like a chorus and you have something that you want to overdub or record several times, but I mean, it's just a little bit confusing. As you can see now that I record, it enables this one and then that one. It's kind of, I don't know, it's not the best workflow for me to record. So that's how you record in FL Studio. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of strange. Another thing that is kind of strange is if you don't have this channel selected. So let's say that I go here, I have other things in the mix, and I just move some knobs, you know, like this, and now I have this knob select, or this track here, this insert in the mixer selected. Now if I go to record again, as you can see now, okay, so this actually is something that they fixed, but because I've not recorded in FL Studio for a while, but before, what would happen is that it would select this track here, and it will make this track, it would make me select something for this track, and I think I can replicate that. So let's say that I remove the recording. This track is still armed for recording here with this knob here, as you can see. Let's say that I mix something here in the track, but I have this one selected. Let's see if this will ask me for the thing that I don't like. If I hit record in the playlist, okay, so you can see, please select an audio input first. So I don't have, this is kind of, let me take out the audio from FL Studio. And as you can see, now it didn't record automatically. And this one here, which was record enabled, now it made this track record enable. I don't like that. What I like to do is I can change whatever I like, but whenever I hit record, it will record only the ones that I enabled, but this doesn't happen. And if I click here, it tells me here, okay, now select one of the options. And if I select option 1, it starts to record again, and it records both this one and this one here. And I don't like this, to be honest. Let me take this off and enable FL Studio. I don't like this. This is really, really counterintuitive, because usually, let's say here in Studio One, let's say that I have this one armed for selection, and I go in this one, and by the way, let me take this out, and I go here, I select this track, I move the volume in this one and whatever, and I have track 4 selected. If I hit record, it starts recording only on that one, because that's the one that I'm for recording. And that's why I now don't use FL Studio for recording audio, because it's kind of a little bit of a pain. It's really, really not intuitive. So you saw that it doesn't recognize that this track is armed for recording, and automatically makes this track armed for recording, even though I didn't ask it. So yeah, that's why I don't like to use FL Studio for recording, but if you have to, that's the way you should do. You can also record in Edison. So let's go and let's do that. Edison, you don't have this time limit. So you can also open up Edison automatically here with MISC Edison. And you just have to, you see that we have audio input here. You just have to select one of the options. You can say just on input and start recording things. And it automatically starts recording. Whenever I want to stop this, I just hit here stop, or I click on the record button and it automatically stops. The good thing is that this goes forever. I think it goes until like 4 hours or something like that. I don't know. It has a limit, but I'm not sure which limit it is, but I can just hit here and now it stops. So if I play this, let me see. Let me take the audio input. And let's listen to this one. Start recording things, and it automatically starts recording. So, and then you can just drag this and bring it to the playlist, which I don't know. It's a little bit. You see that it's not intuitive. It's not a very simple thing to just follow. Like for instance in Studio One, where I just arm the track for recording, and then I hit record and starts recording. In the FL Studio, it's kind of a little bit, you have to jump through some hoops to get the recording. But again, if you have no other DAW, and if you are kind of stuck in FL Studio, you can definitely record. I've done recordings in the past. I have made some really dope songs in the past with FL Studio alone, from composing to recording to mixing and mastering. It's possible, but that's one of the things that I say here in the channel is like, I use several DAWs because of that. I have DAWs that give me certain workflows and that I want, that I'm comfortable with, and that I'm fast with. So I use FL Studio for composing, making beats, making arrangements. If I have to make a remix, I just drag the vocals or the sounds that I want and make a remix on that. If I want to mix something and record audio, I just go to Studio One, because that gives me a more, it's more intuitive for mixing, and I'm faster there. So that's why I use several DAWs, and that's how you can incorporate several DAWs in your workflow. And the time that it takes me to export everything, for instance, I make a beat in FL Studio, and then I go to Studio One to make the mixing. The time that it takes me to export the stems, load them into Studio One, it's more than okay. How can I say? The time that it takes me to do that, it's far better to invest that time for me, invest that time in doing that step, than to mix inside of FL Studio, if that makes sense. So I prefer to take that extra time of exporting everything and then importing in Studio One, because the time that I'm going to mix in Studio One will be way more faster for me. And I would probably, instead of making a mix in 40 minutes or 50, I would, in FL Studio, it would take me like 1 hour and 10, 1 hour and 20, or 1 hour and a half. So the time that it takes me to export every single track and then import it into Studio One, at the end is less than what it would take me to mix in FL Studio, if that makes sense. I hope so.